In this tutorial, I'm going to show how to translate a set of keywords where this is the final product. We've got a list of all of the IDs of each point of interest or POI. We've got the name of that POI, and then these are the keywords that would be used to search. If somebody searched on snacks, it should return this 11 Alive travel store. If they search in French, like defibrillator, it should take them to this AED POI. So the question is, how did I translate these keywords? The original file is in English. Here's the list of POI IDs, their names, and then these are the keywords in English. And we've already got a translation file where it maps from the English words to the French words, and this is in alphabetical order, okay, where the capitalized words are before the lowercase words, but everything is alphabetized. So what I'm going to be showing you is how to create a translation file just like this, where we're translating ATLRFR keywords, KW stands for keywords, to French. So let's just duplicate what we're going to be duplicating exactly what we have here. So I'm going to just call this ATLFR3. There's three types of columns we care about: the ID column, the name column, and then all the keywords columns. So let's begin with the first one. To make cell A1 equal to another sheet, you just say equals, and then click over to that sheet and click the same cell. Sometimes you have to click over to the left or to the right and then use your arrow keys to go there and press enter. Okay, so now what you see is it's got the same value in column A, row 1 as in this sheet as it has on this sheet. ID. The formatting is different, but that shouldn't be too important. So what does this mean? It says this cell A1 should equal, that's what the equal sign means, it should equal the A1 cell from sheet ATLFR keyword. Okay, so you notice that the sheet is in single quotes, and then there's an exclamation mark, and then the cell that you care about. So we'll do that for the next column now. Equals, and then click over here, and you have to kind of click to the right and then back. See, it'll go from C1 to B1. Press enter. Okay, and we'll just continue doing this for the whole thing. We need to make sure that the number of columns is equal. So on this target sheet, if I do command right arrow, it shows me that it only goes to column Z. So we're going to have to be adding some more columns. To do that, I'm going to go back over here to the source, and I'm going to do command shift right arrow. That takes me all the way out to column EO, sorry, and then I go to edit, copy, and now I'm going to come back to the target, and I do edit, paste special values only, and then that magically creates EO columns. We need to do the same thing for the number of rows, because the original number of rows, if I do command down arrow, it shows me that there's not enough rows, 1,000, and the source, if I go to command left arrow to get back to the beginning, and then command down arrow to get to the bottom. Oh, there's some blanks in here. I wasn't expecting that. Sorry, it wasn't all the way over. Command left arrow all the way over to column A. Now command down arrow. Okay, it shows me that there are 1375. So another way to add add rows is to come back over here and say add 375. So now there's 1375. I'm going to go command up arrow back to the top. So now we have the proper number of columns, the proper number of rows, and now we're going to just continue this process of filling in, or of basically making columns A and column B equal to the source. The way we can do that now very quickly is we highlight these two cells, and then we position the cursor over this blue box, and you see it changes from an arrow to a crosshair. Now I'm going to do a single click, drag all the way down to the very end, and when I get to the bottom I'm going to release, and it's going to automatically fill for me. Okay, so it automatically filled columns A and columns B. Now we don't want to do this for the keywords, because we want to perform a translation. If I did this for the keywords, like let's go back all the way to the top, do Command up arrow to get to the top. It's just going to give me the word snacks, but we want snacks translated, right? So just to give you an example of this, column I7 has the word defibrillator. Let's see what that's translated to. Defibrillator. It should give you this French version of defibrillator. So let's see what would happen if we just did column what was it? Column I7. Column I7, if I did column I7, it would just give me the English version. That's not what we want. We want the French version. So in order to translate this word defibrillator, what we have to do is use a function called VLOOKUP. Lookup called VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. Okay, it is going to vertical in this case means this table of data is vertically oriented. It's not horizontally oriented. So we're going to vertically look up in this table here. We're going to vertically look up the word defibrillator. Where is it? Defibrillator. Okay, it's going to vertically look up defibrillator, and it's going to go over one column to the translation for defibrillator. Okay, so let's come back over here and set this up. So we're going to say, this is the word we're going to be translating, by the way, defibrillator. So we can already just copy that. So I'm just taking that value and doing Command X to get that into my buffer, and then I'm going to say VLOOKUP, and it gives you some instructions. The search key that we're looking for is that word defibrillator, so I'm just going to paste that in, and the vertical table that we're going to be looking up is over here, so I have to click on trans, and then I'm going to go to the very top, and I'm just going to take this whole table Okay, so there's the table. It's sheet trans from A2 to B660. So that's the. So now you can see it's in it's the range in the VLOOKUP. Okay, now the next thing is the index. This would be. It basically it says which column do we want to use as the translation. So just use column 2. Because that's the French side. Column 1 is the English side. Column 2 is the French side. So we want the French side, just like in the example here. And then the last piece here, we put true because we know that the translations are already sorted. If we knew that they weren't sorted, we would put false. Okay. So now you can see it translated the word defibrillator, which was looked up, which was in this value here. It went to the translation table. It looked in column 2 for this word, and it knows it was sorted, so it just found the first instance, and it stopped, and it gave us that value. Okay? Now, if we were to do a fill down, it's not going to work quite right, because watch what happens. This first one, you see it goes from A2 to B660. If we go down, see now it's A3 to B661. We don't want that. We want that to be held constant. So I'm going to delete this. So to make it stay constant when we do that fill, where this is called fill down, this is called fill right. Okay, so when we do that fill down operation, we want this to stay as A2 B660. So to do that, we put a $sign in front of all of this. Okay, now that's going to stay constant. Okay, and you see this stayed constant, but this did not. So this advanced from I7. See, it's I7 here, because this is column I7, to cell I8, which is perfect. So now we can do a fill down, and eventually it'll be a different word. Eventually it'll be a different word after we get past these AEDs. Okay, so now you can see we've got some translations. Plan de donis. If we want to see what the original value here was, we just take this and replace. Okay, so that said days in and suites. Now if I undo this, it goes back to the translated version. Okay. So we're almost good before we fill out this whole, all of these columns, but I want to point out that there's a problem because it says NA here. All right, so how to get rid of the NA is as follows. The reason it says NA is because this cell I85 does not have a value in the target, in the source sheet. See, I85, there was nothing in that cell, so we don't want the word NA, which stands for not applicable. So what we do is the following. We're going to say, if the value is NA, then just put a blank. If it's not NA, then use this value. Okay, so I'm highlighting this, and then I'm doing Control X, so I can copy that, because I'm going to need it 2 times. Then I say, if is NA, and then I paste the value. So if it's going to be NA, then just put a blank. A blank can be like double quotes. If it's not NA, then use the value itself. So I just paste the value again, and I close the if statement. And it's very convenient in here because you can see that when I press the parenthesis, it highlighted this parenthesis and it highlighted this parenthesis, so I know what parentheses balance. Okay, so that got rid of the NA from there, and if I copy this, or if I just do a drag down, now the NA is gone from there. And if I drag it further, it still has steak grill because there was a value there. So now we have the formula that we want. We can then use this formula to fill out the rest of the columns. So where we want to start is basically C2, right? So let's put that all together, and I'll start it all again. So at first I'm going to say equals if is NA VLOOKUP. Now we go and find C2 in the source table. C2, and you just have to do this trick again where you click over, in this case to the left, and you see it's B53. That's not what we want. We want actually not C53, we want C2. So I can just edit it directly. And then we want to translate that using this translation table that's over here, this translation table over here, from A2, and I'm doing Shift right arrow, Shift Command down arrow, but we want to put the dollar signs to keep this fixed. Okay, now we want column 2 because that's the French column, not the English column, which would be column 1, and we say true because the table of translations is sorted. And now I'll press the parenthesis key and watch what happens here. Parenthesis, see, it highlighted that. And then I am going to say one more parenthesis. Okay, so now we say what happens if it is NA, we want a blank. If it's not NA, then we want this VLOOKUP value itself. So we just copy and paste that. And watch as I close one more parenthesis. It should highlight this one. Perfect. Okay, so now we can fill down and fill right. So I'm going to fill down first. It's going to overwrite that other stuff we did, but that's okay because we didn't really need it. And now we fill right. Okay, and it's doing quite a bit of computation, so you have to give it kind of a second to finish. It's doing all these, thousands and thousands of VLOOKUPs. But if I come back up to the top, everything should be pretty much translated. And we can do a spot check. Let's go to column, let's do column U, 131. Let's go see what it was in English. Column U, 131. Okay, U, 131. Okay, that's beer. What is beer? It's translated as, come over here. Beer is Bier. And then if we come back over here to the target, we see that it was correctly translated. So now this whole sheet has been completely translated, and everything is in formulas. So if for some reason we need it to be in final values, you could do that by doing download as a CSV or an Excel. If you do a CSV, it'll get rid of those formulas and just put the actual values. Another way you could get the actual values into a permanent sheet is you could say edit, let's see, select all. Where's select all? I don't know where select all is, but it's probably Command A. That selects all, then a copy, and if I create a new sheet, it's copying. Just give it a second to finish copying. Okay, now I do a new sheet. If I do edit, paste special, values only, now that gives me all of the final values. So now this is a complete copy. It's not formulas anymore. You can see that the contents of these cells is actual values. So that you may have a need for that. Alright, so that is again a tutorial on how to translate a keywords file given a English source and a alphabetized translation from English to the target language. How do you perform the translation?